Getting to round 100 on zombies might seem like a daunting task, but it's actually never been easier than Black Ops 6, so I'm going to show you exactly how you can go to round 100 on Liberty Falls extremely easily and with just a simple strategy. Granted, you do need a lot of things unlocked beforehand, so we're going to get into that in a minute, but if you want to know how to unlock the Another Round Dark Ops calling card, stick around to the end of the video, and without further ado, let's get straight into it. So before we get into the game, it's important that we go over the loadout first. It's actually really simple. What you need is the GS45 with these attachments, preferably. You definitely need the suppressor for salvage drops, you definitely need it akimbo, and you definitely need the extended mag, but everything else is totally up to your preference. Secondly, you want to use the normal knife, not the baseball bat, not the power drill, just the normal knife. And you also want to use Ether Shroud. For your tactical and lethal, it doesn't really matter, but I always recommend using the decoy because it'll make getting the jet gun a lot easier. And gobblegums don't matter. I did not use a single gobblegum getting to round 100. You don't need to use them, but you can make them whatever you want. Now, for augments, the only important ones really are Free Faller from Stamina Up. Dying Wish on Quick Revive is incredibly useful as well, just in case you get stuck in a corner. Reactive Armor and Hardened Plates are absolutely essential for Juggernog because if you don't know, reactive armor is basically just Widow's Wine whenever one of your plates break, and it's extremely helpful. You want to use Espresso and Stick and Move for Melee Macchiato. That's going to come in handy later on. For Speed Cola, you definitely want to use the classic formula and Quick Swap. You never want to get caught in a reload animation, ever, when you're going for high rounds. For PhD, you want to use PhD Slider and Tribologist. This is just going to be insanely helpful for mobility while you're running around on the roof, if you have to. And lastly, Electric Cherry is also pretty helpful, even though it's not necessary. Now, going into the ammo mods, the only two I would recommend are Napalm Burst and Shadow Rift. So firstly, with Napalm Burst, this is what you're going to use for the first like half or so of the game. You're going to put it on your knife as well as your GS45 because fire damage is super effective against manglers, and that's really the only thing you're going to be facing in the early game. And as soon as you get into the strategy, you want to switch that out for Shadow Rift. So the augments you want to use are Thermite to increase the burn damage and Incendiary because you can make your burn travel to different enemies with a single shot. And for Shadow Rift, you want to use Big Game because it will activate on abominations, which is incredibly useful, and Singularity because it'll suck anything around it in with it, including manglers, which again is insanely useful. And now for the field upgrade, you want to use Ether Shroud, and you need to have the Void Sheath. That's the reason we're using the knife and the Melee Macchiato augments, because Void Sheath brings it all together. It pulls out your knife every time you activate Ether Shroud and imbues it with void damage, and it makes it even stronger. You can also get an extra charge on your Ether Shroud too, so it's basically a 2-use get out of jail free card at any time, and you get your shroud filled up insanely fast doing this strategy. So now that I've gone over everything you need for your loadout, let's get straight into the game. Your first 10 to 25 rounds are going to be fairly simple, just playing through the map normally, but you want to save as much salvage as physically possible, and what I mean by that is by doing these SAM trials. Every couple rounds, SAM trials will spawn anywhere around the map, and if you do them and complete them, you have a high chance to get ether tools to drop, as well as a ton of salvage and points, even perks, so they can be insanely helpful to get set up early, and the faster you get set up, the faster you can get into the strategy. When you do find ether tools, you want to make sure you're putting them on your knife. You don't really want to use the ether tools on your GS45 because you only really need to get your GS45 to purple rarity, which is about 4,000 scrap, which isn't horrible in the grand scheme of things. But if you think about it this way, if you were to get it legendary on your knife as well, you would be spending a whole extra 9,000 scrap. So using ether tools makes that a lot cheaper. The last thing you need to get completely set up is the jet gun. So if you don't know how to get the jet gun, I have a tutorial on my channel you can check out, or you can just spam the box and get lucky. But once you do have the jet gun and you're feeling set up enough, you have all your perks that you want and at least like a 2-plate armor, make your way to the bowling alley, and you're going to want to use your GS45 for the next 10 to 15 rounds. During this time, you're just going to keep stockpiling on scrap and points. Of course, you want to keep your GS45 on the level of the zombies. You don't want to get too overpowered, but you also don't want to be underpowered. And I found the perfect sweet spot for this is double Pack-a-Punch purple GS45, so you don't necessarily have to go anywhere above that to get round 100. On round 25 and above is when the Wonder Fizz spawns on top of the bank, so you can go up there then and get all the rest of your perks. And once you get your jet gun to tier 3 Pack-a-Punch, you're ready to begin the strategy. You want to make your way to the top of the bank, and you just want to sit underneath this zip line, and this is where you're going to be sitting. Behind you, there's a drop-off, so if you get overrun by abominations or something and you're about to go down, you can either jump off with your free fall augment on stamina up and take no fall damage and escape easily, or you could pop your ether shroud and fight back with your knife. And since we have Shadow Rift on our knife, all you have to do is smack whatever is in front of you a couple times, and they will be sucked into a portal and instantly die if your knife is upgraded enough. Eventually, once you get past round 40, Manglers are going to start spawning like hotcakes. They are going to be absolutely everywhere, and to get rid of them, or at least to remedy the situation, all you have to do is slowly tap fire on them, and it'll keep them stun locked. And the more and more you hit them, the more and more their armor will slowly splinter apart and break, and they will eventually succumb to your, suck-in, and they'll die. Of course, while you're in this strategy too, you're gonna have a ton of score streaks and lethals and tacticals piling up at your feet. So if you do get these to drop, I recommend placing any sentry turrets that you have in between rounds, because if an abomination spawns in, it'll get absolutely decimated in seconds. The same thing goes for chopper gunners, and most importantly, mutant injections. You want to keep your eyes peeled for mutant injections because they are the most overpowered score streak. Actually, scratch that. The most overpowered weapon, the most overpowered thing you could possibly do in the game. Since you're completely invulnerable and you do like 150,000 damage per melee, after you pop a mutant injection, you could just stand in the middle of the roof and spin in a circle, spamming your melee button, and nothing will survive, and it will actually make the rounds pass insanely quickly. If you go down at any point, I wouldn't worry because it will happen eventually, even to the best of us. I went down once or twice in this game, and if you do, don't worry, just walk over to the Wonder Fizz machine and pop your ether shroud, and you can quickly buy all of the perks that you need, and then you could just hop off the roof to go buy the self-revive kit that you need as well. Now, I should probably mention the most annoying part of this entire process, because it definitely made me almost fall asleep at my desk. It is the vermin rounds. The vermin rounds, when you're going for round 100, take upwards of 10 minutes, and it is just absolutely diabolical. It is so boring, and they spawn so slowly, and there's not really anything I could tell you to help with that, except standing in the bowling alley kind of helps because the spawns are so centralized. It makes it a little bit faster, but it still takes a long time regardless of where you are, so just keep that in mind when you're doing this. When you get to round 80, using the jet gun alone becomes a little too risky, so I recommend just spamming mutant injections to fill the rest of the time until round 100, because by this point you should have around 60 to 70,000 salvage saved up anyway, so it doesn't matter. Every single time your mutant injection runs out, go run and buy a new one and pop it, and eventually, sitting in the corner long enough, you will slowly rack through all of the rounds until eventually the big 100 will hit your screen and you will unlock the another round Dark Ops calling card. So with that being said, that is exactly how you can easily get to round 100 on Liberty Falls. Thank you guys so much for sticking around till the end of the video. Thank you guys once again for showing all of your support. You guys seriously mean the world to me. And if you found this video useful or informative, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel because every day we get closer to 2,000 subscribers. And with that all being said, have a great rest of your day or night, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.